Welcome to the Fox 54 Week in Review. I'm Kenesha Dees. It's the only place in North Alabama to get the week's local headlines condensed into one program. Let's get started with a trip to space. It's a historic week. 4 astronauts launched on Artemis 2 for a mission around the moon. The crew left on April 1st for a 10-day trip to test deep space systems and pave the way for future moon landings. Here's a look at Fox 54's coverage of the big event. It's a historic week for the Rocket City and the world. Wednesday, all eyes will be on the Florida coast as NASA's Artemis 2 mission prepares for liftoff, the first time in more than 50 years that humans will head back to the moon. It's been nearly 3.5 years since the massive space launch system last left the pad for the uncrewed Artemis 1 mission. The goal this time around is to ensure critical life support systems can keep a human crew safe in deep space before a lunar landing is attempted. The 4-person crew includes Commander Reed Wiseman, a retired Navy captain from Baltimore. This will be his second trip into space. Pilot Victor Glover is one of NASA's only black astronauts. He's a Navy captain and former combat pilot from California. This will also be his second trip to space. Mission specialist Christina Cook hold the record for the longest single space flight by a woman at 328 days. She's also a 5-time Space Camp graduate and a member of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center Hall of Fame. And Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen is a fighter pilot and physicist making his space debut as Canada's first emissary to the moon. Fox 54's Logan Alexandra Russell has more on the excitement leading up to the big launch.
You can feel it in the air here in the Rocket City. That familiar launch fever is back. And while the countdown is ticking away down in Florida, the heart of the mission is right here in Huntsville, as the U.S. Space and Rocket Center is preparing and transforming into the ultimate front row seat for the Artemis 2 launch. Under the shadow of the rocket that took us to the moon the first time, Huntsville is getting ready to do it again. The Rocket City isn't just watching history, it's hosting it. USSRC spokesperson Pat Ammon says the excitement is personal this time. One of the 4 astronauts on board, Christina Cook, is a 5-time Space Camp graduate.
We are certainly cheering on this crew, but we're definitely have our hearts with Christina and everything that she means and represents about what you can do and what you can achieve after you've come to space camp.
During the mission, the crew will test life support systems in deep space. That powerful SLS rocket was managed and developed right here at Marshall Space Flight Center. For Apollo 4 veteran Bill McDonald, watching this new chapter unfold is a reminder of the grueling work that defined the original moon shots.
We were going through test after test after test to make sure everything was working. The whole system was working properly. It was an exciting time, too, because we knew we were coming to that moment when we were going to leave this planet.
The doors at the Davidson Center open at 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday. For the free watch party, the countdown is on, the party is set, and the Rocket City is ready to roar. In Huntsville, Logan Alexandra Russell, Fox 54 News.
The first crewed mission near the moon in over 50 years is happening tomorrow with the launch of Artemis 2, and it's a historic moment for space exploration and the Rocket City. And NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center is a central piece to this mission. They're helping to provide major components, brain power, and communications to the crew up in orbit from right here in the Rocket City. And several are down in Cape Canaveral now to oversee the rocket's launch tomorrow afternoon. Fox 54's Kate Baguayo shows us how local experts are helping to make the mission a success.
Right here in Huntsville is where a lot of the magic happens for the work that goes up into space from Florida. From construction to communication with our astronauts, the Marshall Space Flight Center handles the work that often goes unseen.
Marshall Space Flight Center is one of 10 10 centers across the United States that contribute to NASA missions. And so we are very proud to have the responsibility for building the space launch system. And then we are also working on the human landing system at the Marshall Space Flight Center that will take humans to the surface of the moon.
In addition to much of the space launch system and the program management, the Marshall Space Flight Center also handles the construction of key adapters that connect the rocket to the crew capsule.
If you're going from the bottom up to the rocket, you'll see the launch vehicle to stage adapter. And so that is where the It's a cone-shaped structure, and that's where the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, which also, by the way, was built in Decatur, Alabama, just down the street from us. So that will house that upper stage, and then that will connect to the Orion stage adapter, which then is what connects the entire rocket to the Orion crew capsule.
It also brings along some essential communications, ranging from data to a direct line with Houston and Cape Canaveral.
They also do communications with the crew that's on the International Space Station. So a lot of different components of that. But we'll have a team there in Huntsville that will be watching data as it comes down from the rocket, making sure we understand all of the performance of the rocket.
With North Alabama being an integral part of the mission, the Marshall Space Flight Center does the work that brings the Rocket City its namesake. In Huntsville, I'm Caleb Aguayo, Fox 54 News.
10, 9, 8, 7, RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
All systems go. It's so exciting to see that in playback again. The Artemis II crew launches into space for humanity's first lunar trip in more than half a century. It's where we begin tonight. I'm Kenesha Dees. The Space Launch System rocket roared to life at Kennedy Space Center, producing nearly 9 million pounds of thrust as it carried the crew aboard the Orion spacecraft into space. The crew of astronauts, 3 Americans and 1 Canadian, are set to fly around the moon without stopping or even orbiting before heading straight back for a splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. This mission expected to take about 10 days. It was a full house at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, with more than 1,000 people packing into the Davidson Center to watch history unfold. The Saturn V hall filled with cheers, countdowns, and excitement as families, space fans, and future astronauts gathered for the Artemis II launch. Fox 54's Valentina Chalala was there to see the energy that packed the room during this one-of-a-kind moment.
Let's go for launch.
This is a beautiful day for a flight.
I can wait for the launch.
Artemis II has been in development for almost a decade, marking the first crewed lunar flyby in 50 years. And not only is that a feat of its own, it's also a record-breaking one. Victor Glover is set to become the first black astronaut to orbit the moon, and Christina Cook, the first woman. Former NASA engineer Craig Sumner says this moment is a long time in the making.
I've worked on the space shuttle program for 35 years, and we were restricted to low Earth orbit. It is going to be so good to leave the bounds and the gravity of the Earth and go back to the moon. So I remember where I was when I watched Neil Armstrong step foot on the moon, watching a black and white TV. Now we're getting crystal clear color photos from beginning to end.
Lowell Zoller, a retired NASA project manager, has roots in the agency's earliest days, working during the Apollo era when the U.S. first put astronauts on the moon with Apollo 11.
We were launching these pretty regularly 50 years ago, and we're anxious to see this one get off the ground.
Sumner says funding has changed dramatically since the 1960s, ultimately leading to fewer launches. But innovation has kept missions like this moving forward. Zoller, who also worked with the European Space Agency, says space technology is one of America's strongest assets, but warns the U.S. must keep pushing forward to stay competitive.
We have got to get back into space business. The only reason that the foreign nations want to work with us is to get our technology. And now we're struggling to keep our technology up to theirs.
I think that's what our new administrator wants to do with Artemis II, and build more vehicles, fly more often, keep our crews trained, and keep our manufacturing up to speed on what it takes to build a rocket this big.
And for many in attendance, this was a destination event, with some traveling from across the country and even overseas for a front row seat to history. In Huntsville, I'm Valentina Chalala, Fox 54 News.
Hundreds of teams across the country helped make this launch possible. Here in Huntsville, dozens of contractors work around the clock to make this mission to the moon a reality. 2 of those groups, Teledyne and the United Launch Alliance, are at the forefront of this space launch systems engineering. Fox 54's Caleb Aguayo shows us what local companies did to bring man back to the moon.
Among the various teams across the country that worked on the Artemis II mission, NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center recruited dozens of them from right here in the Rocket City. One of NASA's program managers for the Space Launch System, Dr. Sharon Cobb, says they worked on several parts of the rocket themselves in the Tennessee Valley and brought in several others to help.
We also built two very important components, the launch vehicle to stage adapter, as well as the Orion stage adapter at the Marshall Space Flight Center, using the workforce and the equipment and the amazing tools that we have there on site. So that, in partnership with some of our prime contractors, are some of the important critical pieces that the Huntsville community can be proud of.
Those local contractors tell me that public-private partnership is critical for missions like this one. They say from rocket stages to adapters to even the crew capsule, Huntsville is a part of this entire operation.
We're supporting all those entities in some shape, form, or fashion. And so if you do a Google search on different components, more than likely one of our Teledyne companies is going to come up as a provider or developer of those components. You know, as we move forward in the space race, supply chain is a big problem.
Teledyne Brown Engineering built some of the stage adapters, the onboard electric systems called avionics, and the connections that protect those systems, but they didn't do it all by themselves. That's why NASA recruited companies from all over the Tennessee Valley. That includes the United Launch Alliance in Decatur, which built the upper stage and the propulsion system to get the crew to the moon and back again.
We'll prep our stage following our mission, and we'll go into a quiescent period where the Orion spacecraft will actually approach and simulate as if they were going to approach another spacecraft, a lander or something like they will in the future. So they'll get to demonstrate that proximity operations capability.
And in the future, these same local companies are hoping to work with NASA on a permanent lunar base and man's first steps on Mars. In Huntsville, I'm Caleb Aguayo, Fox 54 News.
But before Mars, the second Artemis mission will take a lap around the dark side of the moon before making a return trip to Earth. Another big story this week, Huntsville Hospital's acquisition of Crestwood Medical Center finalized. While hospital leaders celebrated the decision, some in the community are concerned about what this means for wages and healthcare choices. A new report released this morning raises concerns about Huntsville Hospital's plan to acquire Crestwood Medical Center. The report, put together by the North Alabama Area Labor Council and United Women of Color, says the deal could impact pay, prices, and patient care. And they want more transparency before it moves forward. The proposed $450 million acquisition would bring Crestwood Medical Center under Huntsville Hospital System, expanding its reach across the Tennessee Valley. Fox 54's Valentina Chalala takes a closer look at what the new report is raising concerns about.
This report puts numbers behind what some in the community are worried about, laying out how this deal could affect paychecks, prices, and patient care if nothing changes. The report finds Huntsville already ranks in the bottom 3% nationwide for registered nurse pay, with a median of about $31 an hour. It cites research showing wages can drop almost 7% after hospital mergers, while healthcare prices have risen as much as 65% in some cases. Jacob Morrison, president of the North Alabama Area Labor Council, says limited public input sparked the report, and that consolidation can put workers at a disadvantage.
When you have a situation where there is only one employer to which a certain type of worker can sell their labor, then that employer has more power at the bargaining table.
Morrison says the goal of the report is to push for accountability and start negotiations with Huntsville Hospital on key issues like pay and pricing.
You should negotiate with the community and say, look, we commit for the next 3 years or for the next 5 years after the merger, we will not raise prices over and above the cost of inflation and cost.
As the deal moves forward, the report calls for more oversight, greater transparency, and clear commitments on cost, care, and worker pay. For now, those questions remain unanswered. In Huntsville, I'm Valentina Chalala, Fox 54 News.
Huntsville Hospital tells us that they are aware of the report but cannot comment in detail right now due to a non-disclosure agreement, adding they hope to share more information soon. A major shift in North Alabama's healthcare landscape now official. Crestwood Medical Center has officially joined the Huntsville Hospital Health System, bringing the facility under local nonprofit ownership. Huntsville Hospital officials say this merger is about keeping decisions and dollars right here in Madison County. While patients won't see changes to their doctors or services, Huntsville Hospital says they're working to ensure all future profits stay right here in North Alabama. Fox 54's Logan Alexandra Russell spoke with leaders from both systems about what this means for your care and your wallet.
It's the start of a new chapter for healthcare in the Tennessee Valley. Crestwood Medical Center is officially joining the Huntsville Hospital health system, shifting from an out-of-state corporate ownership to a local nonprofit model.
The opportunity this creates now is their support and resources, instead of being 100 miles away or 1 mile down the road. And if we need to share resources or support one another, we now have the opportunity to do that.
Huntsville Hospital CEO Jeff Sams says the move ensures that the voices making the biggest decision are the ones actually living in the community.
We think healthcare is such a personal choice for people. The decisions about people's healthcare should be made by volunteer board members that live here in the community.
Crestwood Board Chair Mike Gillespie says for patients, the transition will be seamless. He says the biggest change is where the money goes.
The money generated through Crestwood Medical Center will now stay all in the Huntsville-Madison County area, used to provide greater health care.
While leadership changes, the care teams remain the same. But recent reports from advocacy groups have raised questions about transparency and nurse pay. Sams pointed to a major investment hitting paychecks this July as part of their commitment to fair compensation.
We recently announced that this summer we're making an over $30 million investment in nursing compensation to make sure nurses in Huntsville, they're some of the hardest working people in the healthcare. They're the heart of what we do, and we're committed to paying them fairly.
Officials say Crestwood will keep its name and doctors, coordinating with the larger network to manage the region's rapid growth. In Huntsville, Logan Alexandra Russell, Fox 54 News.
Huntsville Hospital Health also reiterated that their previously announced projects like the new emergency departments in North Huntsville and Hampton Cove still on track. As for Crestwood employees, leaders say all staff will retain their years of service and seniority. The merger between Huntsville Hospital and Crestwood Medical Center is complete, but multiple groups have voiced concerns about the move, citing the difference in nurse pay between Huntsville Hospital and Crestwood. The North Alabama Area Labor Council and United Women of Color released a report earlier this week, citing a bottom 3% national ranking for hourly pay for nurses in the Rocket City. It's a major concern for labor organizations here in the Tennessee Valley. Tonight, we hear more from them.
We already know that Huntsville Hospital has historically paid their staff less than Crestwood, especially nursing staff. So from a staffing point of view, just from the protections of the workers there, that is an immediate concern of ours.
Whitney Washington with the North Alabama Area Labor Council believes her organization and others like it need to sit down with the Huntsville Hospital CEO to make sure staff pay is kept level.
We would love to sit down with Jeff Sams and discuss getting these commitments in writing to make sure that staff is protected, that staff at these hospitals can have competitive pay.
In an interview with FOX54, Sams assured the public that staff salaries will not only stay the same, but actually go up.
We're making an over $30 million investment in nursing compensation, and we're committed to paying them fairly.
Some argue competition is necessary to ensure quality care and competitive pay. We spoke with Huntsville City Council candidate Nick Freevold, who says the state would be the first roadblock.
There's a state law that is the certification of need. So before a hospital can actually build here, they have to work with the state and actually prove that their hospital is needed in the area. And that's an actual big barrier because Alabama has actually blocked hospitals in the past based on the certification of need. So, and we're only one of 8 states that actually have the certificate of need.
And now with the lack of a second hospital, Freevold believes there's more of a need for another option.
Even if it's just a small competitor, just one competitor is really beneficial to the market because that's what you need for a healthy market, competition.
Both Freevold and Washington believe only one healthcare provider in Huntsville could be a deterrent to city growth. Last weekend marked No Kings protests around the country. Groups gathered across North Alabama. We were at events in Huntsville and Florence to see what people had to say. Nationwide No Kings protests are set for tomorrow, including one in Lauderdale County. But ahead of that event, there's controversy over what support or lack of it organizers are getting from the city of Florence. The No Kings movement is a nationwide day of protest with demonstrations planned in cities across the country, including Florence, Huntsville, and Decatur, focused on free speech, civil rights, and government accountability. Fox 54's Valentina Chalala breaks down the permit questions surrounding the local rally.
Ahead of tomorrow's rally, the biggest question in Florence isn't about the protest. It's about the permit. Indivisible, one of the organizations spearheading the event, says they asked the city to waive fees for the rally, but did not receive a clear response, raising questions about how these events are approved. Steve Wiggins, an Indivisible member, claims the city is charging $600 for a permit, which helps the city plan for safety, crowd control, and traffic. However, according to the City of Florence's website, a special event permit is typically $250. Indivisible is also under the impression that they will not be allowed to use voice reinforcements like megaphones and microphones. According to the Florence Police Department, tomorrow's event does have a noise waiver in place, but Wiggins alleges their group only has a limited permit, allowing them to gather but not use a PA system.
We're going to have well over 1,000 people there. And so you can see that with that many people and without the ability to have voice reinforcement, it makes things a lot more challenging. It is a fundamental First Amendment right, not a privilege, but a right to be able to come up and speak your truth and speak truth to power.
There's still confusion over what was approved, with organizers saying they can't use amplified sound, while Florence police say a noise waiver does exist. In Florence, I'm Valentina Chalala, Fox 54 News.
The Florence rally is set for tomorrow from noon to 3 at Wilson Park. Wiggins says the event will remain peaceful and open to anyone who wants to participate.
No Kings protests happening around the nation today, including here in the Tennessee Valley, voicing their frustrations with the Trump administration. Here you can see videos of protests happening in cities such as Washington, D.C., Dallas, and Philadelphia, just some of the thousands of protests happening nationwide. And here in the Tennessee Valley, multiple protests were held. From the Shoals to Jackson County, many came out to protest and air their concerns about the state of the country. And around North Alabama, the Fox 54 team attended multiple No Kings protests today, from Big Spring Park in Huntsville to Wilson Park in Florence. Here's a look at what protesters had to say.
A lot of people are just fed up with the way things are going.
I think that it's time to stand up.
I believe in the Constitution.
We've got to get rid of him.
Protesters shared a range of reasons for showing up, with many pointing to President Donald Trump's immigration policies as a key concern.
We're all immigrants. Every one of us here, unless you're Native American. So it's, and with no due process, yeah, there may be some bad immigrants, but I would say 99% of all the ones that they've rounded up are really just decent, hardworking people that were looking for a better life for themselves.
Assessment of illegal aliens and how he's treating them. And not only that, but how he's just lumping everybody in one category and just snatching them all off the streets. With no regard to the Constitution.
Others raised concerns about government structure, saying they want future generations to grow up in a country with strong institutions and leaders they can trust.
I would like very much to see my kids and my grandkids grow up in a country that they can respect and they can respect the leaders of. I've served my country. I'm very proud of my service. I'm very worried about the young men and women that's in uniform today.
We need to have our three separate branches of government, and I think Congress needs to establish laws and follow the funding, and that there needs to be less power in our executive branch.
Among the crowd, some protesters also emphasized the importance of civil discourse, saying people across party lines should be able to have conversations even when they disagree.
We want to take our country back. We want to make it free so people, if you're a Republican and you're a Democrat, you can get along and have a civil conversation. You may disagree on things, but at least you can talk to one another.
Others expressed strong criticism of the president, calling for accountability and change.
We elected a 34-time convicted felon, and your average convicted felon can't even vote, much less be president.
You have to ask yourself, when are you going to make a stand? When is the American people going to say this racism, this sexism, this Trump era, we have to bring it to an end if we're to survive and become America again.
And among those at the Huntsville protest today was Andrew Sneed, who's running for the District 5 U.S. House seat. We got the chance to speak with Sneed during the event, and when asked what it meant to attend today's protest, Sneed said it was exciting to see people raise their voices.
I think it's energizing, and the main thing is to be listening to all these folks, because this is not a monolith, and that's the narrative that gets told. This is not just one type of folks. These are old and young and all different race, color, and creed, and they're all upset and they want to be heard. And that's the whole beauty of No Kings, is raising these voices up and elevating that, and people exercising their First Amendment rights to be heard, which is what we need here in this district.
Proposed zoning changes in Athens could bring more industry to the area. Alleged police violence prompts investigations in Decatur, and the city of Arab recovers funds lost in a fraud scam. Welcome back. Some zoning changes over in Athens could potentially allow for some new developments, and it all has to do with keeping up with the times. The Athens Planning Commission hoping the changes will bring new tech investments to the city and county. It's all about new data centers, massive facilities to store, process, and manage large amounts of internet data. And they're often used for artificial intelligence. FOX54's Kip Aguayo shows us what the changes could mean for residents in Limestone County.
A new data center could eventually make its way to the city of Athens after the Planning Commission voted to amend the zoning ordinance for its heavy industrial district along Wilkinson Street earlier this month. The city's Planning Commission recommended the proposal on March 17th and immediately invited the public to bring their comments and concerns directly to the City Council. If approved, the change would allow for a data center on the same street as many of the city's manufacturing plants. While this does not guarantee a data center will open in Athens, the ordinance invites companies to look in Athens for a potential new development. City Planner Aaron Tidwell explains to FOX54, the City of Athens has not received a request related to a data center. The City of Athens saw a growing trend that communities across the U.S. are dealing with regarding proposed data centers. Adding, to be proactive, the City of Athens is seeking to amend its zoning ordinance to address data centers. Many other cities are doing the same. But there's some cause for concern. A lot of the national conversations on data centers focus on heavy ecological impacts for the surrounding areas. The American Association for the Advancement of Science says in other parts of the country, some of those concerns have included reports of high water usage, pollution and gas emissions, and a massive strain on energy consumption.
They provide many jobs and help out our community, but they also have a great ecological impact on our community as well. Massive energy usage, massive potential for water usage, contaminated water, gases that are being emitted into the air that cause a lot of problems. You have a lot of toxic e-waste that builds up and needs to have an outlet, a recyclable outlet.
On the other hand, a massive new facility for technology could bring money, infrastructure, jobs, and even more development to one of the fastest growing areas in the state. The proposal will go before the City Council on April 27th, where they'll talk about the zoning ordinance change and weigh the pros and cons of this development. In Athens, I'm Caleb Aguayo, Fox 54 News.
Now, there are no current plans for a data center inside Athens city limits, but the ordinance's update should match other cities in North Alabama, inviting businesses to invest. Decatur police investigating one of their own after a traffic stop escalated into what the department calls a response to resistance event. Officials say Officer Malachi Compton, pictured here, stopped a driver for moving violations last Wednesday. Investigators say the driver got out of the vehicle and refused commands to get back inside, leading to a response to resistance event. The department says the encounter may have caused injuries to the driver. The driver was taken to a hospital, and Compton now on administrative leave while an internal investigation continues. DPD says a preliminary assessment identified potential policy violations. Compton was recently involved in the controversial arrest of a street preacher on a disorderly conduct charge last month. The Decatur Police Department has faced major scrutiny in recent years, especially following the shooting of Steve Perkins. That shooting led to a civil lawsuit against the department and all of the involved officers, but yesterday a federal judge dismissed all the defendants except the shooter, Mac Marquette. Marquette is now being held solely responsible in both civil and criminal proceedings for the shooting that killed Stephen Perkins in September of 2023. The family of Steve Perkins seeking compensation from Marquette for the damages and liability of his actions that night, but it's all depending on what the criminal court decides. Their attorney, Lee Merritt, describes what they expect from the civil trial ahead.
This family is now entitled to a jury trial that will be open to the public. Up until that point, we start the process of discovery. Discovery is depositions, where we sit down and interview all the important witnesses, is interrogatories, where we gather all the key documents. All of these are in preparation for trial, and it could take up to 6 months to a year in preparation of litigating the case.
Marquette currently scheduled to go on trial September 21st for the murder charge. Merritt says the civil trial will hinge on a guilty criminal verdict.
We are looking forward to finally getting the criminal case underway. The delay has delayed the civil case and has delayed the family's opportunity to grieve. When there is an ongoing civil action, when there's ongoing criminal cases, and families and communities are organized for justice, it doesn't give them the opportunity that the Decatur community hasn't had since Steve's death to properly mourn him, put policies in place to make sure it doesn't happen again, and to grow as a community. And so we are hoping the criminal case does finally move forward at the next trial setting.
Marquette currently scheduled to appear in court for the murder trial on September 21st. Merritt says the civil trial will hinge on a guilty criminal verdict. City of Arab announced today they have successfully recovered the more than $400,000 lost in a fraud scheme earlier this month. City officials say the fraudster posed as an officer of site construction. The company building their new rec center successfully misrepresented themselves, causing the fraudulent payment. With the help of the Arab Police Department and other law enforcement, the entire payment has been recovered. The criminal investigation still ongoing with the help of the FBI and the U.S. Secret Service. Fires in Decatur and Leeton left multiple families displaced and a historic church in ashes. Community members turned out to help those affected by the fire. A narrow escape for more than a dozen Decatur residents after a devastating fire ripped through an apartment complex this morning. Fire happened at an apartment building in the 15,000 block of 6th Avenue Southeast in Decatur. Witnesses told FOX54 the flames and smoke from the building could be seen from several blocks away. As you can see from this footage, smoke billowed out from the building as fire units rushed to the scene. Just look at all of that smoke. Officials confirm all tenants are safe and are currently being relocated. Fortunately, first responders say there are no reported injuries at this time. Fox 54's Logan Alexandra Russell has more.
Flames and heavy smoke poured from this Decatur apartment complex earlier today as crews rushed to the 1500 block of 16th Avenue Southeast. Decatur fire units worked quickly to knock down the blaze. Thankfully, despite the intensity of the fire, the outcome was nothing short of a miracle.
I'm just glad everybody's okay. I know they've lost everything, and I'm so sorry for that, but everybody's safe. We had a newborn down here. They went from 3 months old to 85 years old.
13 residents are now displaced, left with only the clothes on their backs. For a local business owner, the emergency felt personal before she even saw the smoke.
The community has already started coming together to help those affected by this morning's fire. The owner of Anna's thrift store tells me that she felt God speaking to her this morning, saying that she needed to help the residents that had been displaced.
I was in the shower and my smoke alarm went off, and I'm on the other side of town, and it was odd because it's never went off, and I got out and nobody's in my house smoking or anything, and there's no fire, and I'm like, that's odd. And I looked at my phone, and that's when I knew somebody personally in the fire. And I called her, and she just got out. Anybody that needs help that lives there, feel free to come to 1806 11th Avenue Southeast, and I will give them anything they need.
It is in these moments of crisis that you truly see the heart of a city. From the first responders who ensured every resident got out alive, to the business owners just down the street offering assistance. In Decatur, Logan Alexandra Russell, Fox 54 News.
Thankfully, everyone did get out alive and the community coming together to help. Decatur fire crews remained on scene for several hours to monitor hotspots. As for the displaced families, the Red Cross currently assisting them with relocation efforts.
A devastating loss overnight for the town of Layton as a historic house of worship goes up in flames. First responders from across the region spent the early morning hours battling a massive blaze at the Abbey Baptist Church, fighting to save a sanctuary that has stood as a beacon of faith for more than 80 years. Tonight, that structure is being called a total loss, leaving the congregation heartbroken but determined to rebuild just days before the Easter holiday. Fox 54's Logan Alexandra Russell has more.
Shortly after midnight, the quiet of 6th Street was shattered as flames ripped through the historic Abbey Baptist Church. Multiple volunteer fire departments from across the region rushed to the scene, but the fire had already taken a firm hold. The church has stood as a pillar of faith in Layton since 1944. Today, Deacon Freddie Bolton says that although the building is gone, the spirit of the congregation remains unbroken.
We're all in one accord. We're brothers and sisters in the Lord, and it's a brighter day coming. We'll overcome this tragedy right here, bigger and better and stronger, and hopefully we'll have a new building here when the Lord returns to gather his children home.
The battle to save the structure was complicated. First responders had to contend with a full propane tank on site. The heat was so intense that the gas gauge was completely incinerated. Pastor Thomas Thornton says when he finally arrived on the scene, the sight was overwhelming.
There's nothing left on the inside. It totally wiped out every pew that we had in there, but it's okay. God will take care of us and hold us. We've been blessed. A lot of churches have called us and offer things,
But even with the ruins still smoking, the pastor says the outpouring of support from other churches as far away as Tuscaloosa has been a light in the darkness. In Layton, Logan Alexandra Russell, Fox 54 News.
The cause of the fire remains under investigation tonight. The fire marshal will be on scene tomorrow. Abbey's Sunday service will be held at 11 a.m. at Layton Baptist Church.
Finally, let's wrap up by meeting this week's Fox 54's top teacher. Trent Williams teaches 3rd grade at Caldwell Elementary School in Scottsboro, where he was once a student. I'm excited to introduce this educator. Where he works is really like home. Scottsboro born and bred, this teacher gives back to the very place that inspired him to empower the next generation of bright students. Meet this week's Fox 54's top teacher, Trent Williams from Caldwell Elementary School. For 3rd grade reading teacher,
I grew up in Scottsboro, went to Scottsboro City Schools.
Trent Williams.
School was my favorite growing up.
This very classroom at Caldwell Elementary School, a full circle moment.
This was actually my 4th grade classroom when Scottsboro was a K-4 school still.
And Principal Jason Amos.
Congratulations, you have been selected as the Fox 54 top teacher.
Thank you.
Wasn't always principal or Williams' colleague.
I had a bunch of teachers who influenced me along the way. Mr. Amos was actually one of those. He was one of my 5th grade teachers.
Williams says Amos made an impression on him, and now Amos says Williams makes a great impression on his students.
He's always with the latest trends and always willing to try just the newest lessons and just keeping the students engaged and capturing their attention and just doing all he can to meet their needs and be the resources that they need.
This is Williams' 3rd year teaching. He knows how critical reading is at this grade level.
Last year we started an ACAP boot camp. So they have to use the text, so we break it down, we make one sentence at a time until we build a full paragraph as a response.
He says it's important to make learning fun.
And using our whole body to learn, so we're not just sitting still at our desks all day. We're up and we're moving from station to station. We're using our hands and our mind to learn. But I know it's not everyone's favorite. But that they can have fun at school, that it's not just sitting at a desk all day doing work. We get up, we have fun, we move around, we sing, we dance, we keep it just completely loose.
Well deserved. Congratulations, Mr. Williams. It was a pleasure meeting you. We have his full interview in the moment he was surprised as the Fox 54 top teacher on Fox 54 Plus. Also, don't forget to nominate a teacher on fox54.com. Thank you for watching Fox 54's Week in Review. Count on Fox 54 Plus to bring you more great programming with in-depth local specials, Locked On Sports, true crime, cooking shows, wellness experts, and continuing weather coverage. For everyone at Fox 54 News, I'm Kenesha Dees. Have a great Easter weekend.
Fox 54 Plus has your news, sports, and weather. Start your evening with Fox 54 at 5:30, delivering the latest headlines and live reports straight from the scene. Then, stay informed with Fox 54 News at 9, featuring your Tennessee Valley certified most accurate weather impact team, tracking everything from tornado threats to traffic delays during severe weather. Fox 54 Sports Extra brings you more of what sports fans crave, with deeper insights, expert analysis, and all the action that matters most. On Fox 54 Plus, you'll also find Alabama politics, plus 24/7 weather radar and real-time forecasts to keep you ahead of the storm. Looking for a quick recap? Don't miss Fox 54 Week in Review, highlighting the biggest stories of the week. Jumpstart your morning with Morning Rush. Fast-paced news updates, featured with uplifting stories from across the globe. Get your entertainment fix with Getting Real, where we break down movie reviews, top 10 lists, and spotlight the newest film. Die Hard fan? Locked On Sports dives deep into the Crimson Tide, the Tigers, college rivalries, and pro action. True crime warrior style? Killer Cases brings you gripping real-life stories that stick with you. Hungry for more? Cooking with Style serves up mouth-watering recipes that are easy to make and impossible to resist. From movie previews before you head to the theater with Take a Look, to must-know headlines from across the region and around the world with In the News. Watch all of these shows on demand and also on the Fox 54 News app. Available on Android and iOS devices. Streaming 24/7.
There's more to Fox 54 Plus with the Locked On Podcast Network. From the Tide to the Tigers, from college teams to pro, the Locked On Podcast Network gives you insights and analysis you just can't find anywhere else.
These kids, they want to play.
But I don't think so. I think it was Chad Baker-Mazzara.
Locked On Sports, streaming every day of the week and right here on Fox 54 Plus.